Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
A historic first, the House impeaching President Trump for a second time. That makes Donald Trump the first president in history to be impeached twice. The vote coming 1 week to the day after a violent mob took over the Capitol in a deadly insurrection. Nadia Romero is in Washington to explain the vote and what happens next.
Thousands of armed troops keep guard both outside and inside the Capitol, all to protect lawmakers on a historic day, the second impeachment of President Donald Trump.
We are debating this historic measure at an actual crime scene, and we wouldn't be here if it weren't for the President of the United States.
Exactly 1 week after the deadly siege on the Capitol, a bipartisan majority in the House impeached President Trump on one count, inciting an insurrection.
The President of the United States incited this insurrection, this armed rebellion against our common country.
I cannot think of a more petty, vindictive, and gratuitous act than to impeach an already defeated president a week before he is to leave office.
President Trump denied responsibility for the riot.
Statement from the president. I urge that there must be no violence, no lawbreaking, no vandalism of any kind. This is not what I stand for.
Unlike President Trump's first impeachment in 2019, this time a handful of Republicans voted with Democrats to impeach.
With a heavy heart and clear resolve, I will vote yes on these articles of impeachment.
Yet most House Republicans argue that impeachment will ultimately do more harm than good.
A vote to impeach will further fan the flames of partisan division.
Although the House has the power to impeach, it's the Senate that holds a trial and can ultimately remove Trump from the presidency and potentially bar him from ever seeking office again.
Not every House member favored impeachment. Some, including Congressman Tom Reed, were pushing for their colleagues to vote to censure President Trump. Big Fox News' Matt Kleindienst explains what that would have meant.
Good evening. Last week, Tom Reed stated he was against voting for impeachment, but later added that President Trump should face some consequences, which is why he put forth this alternative to impeachment. On Tuesday, Tom Reed and several House colleagues put forth a censure resolution against President Trump. The resolution would seek to do two things. First, to hold President Trump accountable for his actions last Wednesday, and second, to calm down divisions within the country. However, the censure would not remove President Trump from office. Instead, it's supposed to act as an official condemnation to the president's actions. According to the U.S. Senate's website, the only time a sitting president was censured was in 1834, when the Senate censured President Andrew Jackson. His co-sponsors were all Republicans, and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy supported such an action during a speech on the floor Wednesday afternoon.
And the president's immediate action also deserves congressional action, which is why I think a fact-finding commission and a censure resolution would be prudent. Unfortunately, that is not where we are today.
Matt Kleindienst, Big Fox, WYDC, Corning.
Capital cities around the nation are preparing for armed protests the FBI has warned about leading up to the inauguration. And no city has as much to prepare for as Washington, where the event will take place. Kevin Lewis reports on what officials there are doing.
Perhaps the starkest image 7 on Your Side saw today was non-scalable fencing wrapped around the U.S. Supreme Court. It's similar to the metal fencing crews erected around the U.S. Capitol last week. Now 8 days shy of the presidential inauguration, and D.C. Public Works dump trucks are being used to block several roadways, including Pennsylvania Avenue near the Canadian Embassy. Today, D.C. government also announced these street closures that will remain in effect until at least after Inauguration Day.
Well, good afternoon.
This afternoon, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam and D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser greeted National Guard members. There are around 7,000 already in or on their way to D.C. from Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and Virginia.
I realize some of you are students, a lot of you have jobs, you have families, and you had to leave that behind for the next month.
I just want to share with you that the people of the District of Columbia are grateful for you being here, and I know that Americans across all of our states and our wonderful city are also grateful for your service.
Make no mistake, security enhancements will continue, with more fencing and barricades to build as people's curiosity and anxiety also grow.
New York has reached a grim milestone in the pandemic. According to Johns Hopkins, more than 40,000 people have died as a result of COVID-19, which makes New York the first state to reach that number. Darlene Smith of the Steuben County Department of Health says many of those deaths can be traced back to nursing homes.
They haven't been able to see their family, and it's just tragic for the family that's left behind, as well as the individual who is so very ill.
Since December 30th, New York has seen reported cases per week rise 52% and reported deaths per week increase 32%. The men and women who work in our nation's hospitals are now showing signs of trauma similar to those seen in combat veterans. As the COVID-19 case numbers climb, more Americans are being hospitalized, and it's becoming common for our healthcare workers to see multiple people die every day. COVID-19 specialist Amanda Decker takes a look at the effect the pandemic is having on the men and women who are fighting to save lives.
If you're someone who is skeptical over whether COVID-19 is real or how serious it may be, spend a little time inside your local hospital. That's where you'll see what this battle has looked like from the front lines. Healthcare facilities around the country inundated with COVID-19 patients, many of them ending up in intensive care, many of them not making it out alive. Cases across the country continue to rise, along with hospital rates and deaths. Some medical facilities even turning ambulances away, forcing patients to go elsewhere for care because they are simply out of beds. According to the COVID Tracking Project, 131,326 Americans are in the hospital right now. About 24,000 are in ICU, 8,000 on ventilators or life support. The situation is taking a toll on our healthcare workers. Now, a new study showing more than half of doctors, nurses, and emergency responders in our country now suffering from some type of mental health condition. The study, led by the University of Utah, along with the University of Arkansas for Medical Services and Central Arkansas VA Center, found that 56% of the more than 1,100 medical professionals surveyed were dealing with acute traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, and alcohol abuse, as well as insomnia. The researchers comparing the results from this study to what they've seen in combat situations. And a similar study in Great Britain returned similar results. More than 56% of healthcare workers there suffering from symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. And even if you don't work in healthcare, there are still ways you can help this situation. Making sure you're following all of those mitigation measures and only leaving the house when you absolutely have to can help reduce the number of COVID cases and hospitalizations in this country. I'm COVID-19 specialist Amanda Decker reporting.
The Trump administration is adjusting its COVID-19 vaccine rollout plans. Senior administration officials say it's an effort to get shots in more Americans' arms faster. John Lawrence reports.
The U.S.'s COVID-19 vaccine campaign is entering a new phase.
We are changing how we allocate first doses among the states in order to ensure doses are being put to use and put to use for the most vulnerable.
The Department of Health and Human Services hopes these changes, which include releasing reserved second doses, will allow more people to roll up their sleeves.
They're saying, okay, we know that there are problems, so let's help to problem solve.
Some health officials say rigid rules hindered the vaccine's rollout.
I thought our luck of winning the Mega Millions was better than getting in the lottery to get this shot.
The expansion of vaccine availability also addresses another problem. Some areas had more doses than people who were either eligible or willing to get a shot.
When people are ready to get vaccinated, we're going to move right on to the next level so that there are not vaccine doses that are sitting in a freezer or a refrigerator where they could be getting into people's arms.
This comes as the U.S. has averaged more than 3,200 COVID-19 deaths reported per day over the past week, with more than 4,000 reported Tuesday, according to Johns Hopkins University.
You will continue to see people that have gotten their doses and are doing well, and I hope that that will help move the needle, pun intended.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Thousands of fans returned to Bills Stadium Wednesday for coronavirus testing. There are 30 drive-through testing lanes set up in a parking lot. The lab company in charge of the operation says the testing process should take no longer than 10 minutes. It comes ahead of this weekend's game against the Baltimore Ravens. For fans to enter the stadium, they have to get tests done by the approved company within 72 hours of kickoff.
It's just happy to be part of the plan and part of the system to get people back into the stands and rooting for the Bills. Just greet them with a smile and make sure that you root for the Bills.
The results take a bit longer because these aren't rapid tests. The lab company is trying to get results back within 24 hours. They're emailed to fans who are reminded they have to have their results to get into the stadium. GoFundMe is the latest company to change business practices after the insurrection last week. The platform says it will no longer allow people to fundraise for travel expenses used for potentially violent political events. A spokesperson for GoFundMe says the company has already removed a number of fundraisers intended for that purpose. But GoFundMe is also being used for good during this time. A fundraiser was started to raise money for Officer Brian Sicknick's family. He died from his injuries sustained during the Capitol siege. Still ahead tonight, getting a COVID-19 vaccination is one of the best ways to protect yourself and others from catching the coronavirus. But for millions of Americans, a fear of needles may make the decision to get a vaccine a difficult one. Hear from health experts on ways to ease the fear of getting vaccinated ahead.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Tonight's Big Fox forecast is brought to you by William Attar. Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Kim Walker with your weather update. Just a little bit warmer today than it was yesterday, with readings running about 6 degrees warmer in Watkins Glen than it was yesterday afternoon. In Elmira, it was about 5 degrees warmer, 4 in Ithaca, about 2 in Binghamton, about 4 in Corning. However, we do have another system that will be coming through by tomorrow, and it is going to bring the possibility of a few snow flurries early in the day, but then that should taper off during the day on Thursday. And then we have another system that will come through on Friday that really will cool things down for early next week. So if you're having to walk your furry friends during the day tomorrow, we are going to start off with readings near the freezing mark with a little bit of snow. You may want to just wait and then head outdoors, maybe by mid-morning. 38 degrees in the 40s by 2 o'clock, and then we drop back down to around 39 by 4 o'clock with mostly cloudy conditions. We do have another system that will come through Friday night into Saturday, a low-pressure system that will move to the north, and it will bring much colder air in, and also the possibility of snow as well from Friday night into Saturday. I think the rain, though, will start off in the afternoon, but that will switch over to snow by Friday night as that colder air moves in. So our future radar is showing quiet weather for most of tonight, but then early in the morning hours, around 7 o'clock in the morning, it looks like there could be a few snow showers from Corning to Elmira to Sayre, heading eastward into Binghamton. Most of this will be tapering off by the afternoon, so by noon it looks like all this clears away. It heads to the east, and so we should see a little bit drier conditions. Moving on into your Thursday night and into Friday, a few flurries could be possible early in the day on Friday. That will be switching over to some rain showers as we warm up a little bit, but then moving back into the evening hours as those temperatures dive down again, the precipitation will be changing over to snow. So by midnight on Saturday, it looks like snow showers will be a little bit more widespread from Hornell to Bath to Watkins Glen, down to Elmira and southward into Mansfield. So get ready for a little bit of snow as we head toward the end of the week and into the weekend. Tonight, it's definitely going to be cold. We drop down to around 32 degrees in Elmira, 31 degrees in Corning. Cloudy conditions. There will be some snow overnight. We'll wake up with some snow early tomorrow morning. Temperatures by the afternoon will climb into the 40s. And then here's a look at your extended forecast. Another system comes through on Friday, rain changing over to snow by the evening hours, and that snow will continue into the early morning hours on Saturday. We do warm up to around 40 degrees, and then we drop down into the 30s by early next week with overnight lows in the 20s.
Getting a COVID-19 vaccination is one of the best ways to protect yourself from the coronavirus, according to the CDC. But for millions of Americans, a fear of needles may make the decision to get the vaccine even harder. Mandy Gaither has ways to ease that fear in today's Health Minute.
While you may not describe getting a shot as fun, some find that needle downright frightening.
In instant panic, I get clammy and queasy and nauseous, shaky, sweaty, everything that you would get in a really stressful situation.
Alyssa Moody says when she was younger, she'd even faint from her fear of needles. About a quarter of American adults share that fear, and an estimated 7% avoid immunizations because of it, according to the CDC. If you're one of them, you may be able to work through it on your own. Cheryl Carman, a psychologist at Ohio State's Wexner Medical Center, suggests overcoming a needle phobia with exposure, placing yourself increasingly and repeatedly closer to what you fear. For example, you can begin by looking at drawings of needles, then photos. Then try watching videos of immunizations until you can finally work your way up to getting an actual shot. Another psychologist suggests reducing anxiety by relaxation techniques like meditation. Distracting yourself during a shot can help too. Moody says that's one thing she now does.
Keep my eyes focused on something other than what's happening on my arm or wherever else I'm getting the shot, and that makes it tolerable.
If you have a severe fear or phobia, it might be time to seek medical help, but it's a good idea to do that soon. It may take a while to work through your fear, and more COVID-19 vaccines will become available in the coming months.
2 out of every 5 Canadians will now be under a stay-at-home order for the next 4 weeks. Paula Newton reports.
2 out of every 5 Canadians will now be under a stay-at-home order for at least 4 weeks. And that includes the city of Toronto and the nation's capital, where I am right now, Ottawa. And the reason is that public health authorities here say that the hospital system is under threat of collapse. 1 in 4 hospitals, think about it, have already run out of ICU beds as the cases continue to rise. The issue is that, look, a lot of the province has already been under shutdown since Christmas. In fact, the city of Toronto has been under pretty much a shutdown since the end of November. And still, the coronavirus continues to spread. Authorities saying that they believe that private social gatherings in homes, again to blame, as well as those outbreaks that continue to happen in nursing homes and where people work. Now, at issue as well are the vaccines here. The vaccine rollout has been quite slow, but add to that the problem with getting enough doses in time. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau today promised every Canadian who wants a vaccine will get one by September. That can't come soon enough for many people in this country as this second deadly wave of COVID continues to take hold, with really daily case counts as high as they have ever been here now since the beginning of the pandemic.
With the Olympics less than 200 days away, the success of the Games hinges on Japan's ability to tame the virus and vaccinate its population. Selena Wang reports from Tokyo.
10,000 competitors, millions of spectators, a record $15 billion bill. Under 200 days until the Olympic Games are set to open in Tokyo, the global event of the year for sports looms as a deadline on the Japanese calendar. A deadline to get the spiraling pandemic under control. After initial success in keeping cases low by closing its borders and pushing citizens to socially distance, Japan's second wave has been vicious. Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga has announced another state of emergency as hospitals fill and cases grow in their thousands each day. But public health expert Dr. Kenji Shibuya says it's too little, too late.
The message from the government has been confusing. On one hand, they encourage the domestic travel and eating out. On the other, they ask the people to behave properly.
The government spent billions to encourage domestic tourism through the COVID-19 economic slump, only temporarily halting the program in late December. Now, over half the population oppose the Games being held this year, according to a survey by national broadcaster NHK.
Convincing people to get vaccinated in Japan is a challenge of its own. Vaccine skepticism is widespread here, driven by a history of vaccine safety scares and concerns about side effects.
I don't trust it. I will avoid getting vaccinated.
Despite the challenges, the Prime Minister and International Olympic Committee maintain the Games will go ahead. But if they don't, officials say there will be no more delays. The Summer Games would simply be no more. Selena Wang, CNN, Tokyo.
It's not even Valentine's Day, and Target is already making 2021 holiday plans. The retailer announced it will be closed on Thanksgiving Day again. Target and other retailers were closed this past Thanksgiving to help reduce crowds and flatten the curve amid the pandemic. Instead, Target held week-long sales throughout the month of November to spread things out and offered more of its deals online. Target says the response was so positive, they'll do it again this year. Target also announced its holiday sales for November and December were up more than 17% from the year before. A snowboarder is crediting his high-tech gear and his mountain safety training with helping him survive an avalanche that was caught on camera. Jeremy Roth has today's Take a Look at This.
Incredible helmet camera footage captured terrifying moments for a snowboarder who survived an avalanche after riding it down a mountain. Maurice Curvin and a buddy hiked 2 hours to a spot near Loveland Pass in Colorado. They tested the snow's integrity along the way, but Curvin says he was nervous.
We were taking a very big risk skiing this line. I dropped in, everything was going very well.
But that's when things changed. Curvin was swept up in a huge tumbling avalanche, riding it all the way down the mountainside. You can hear him deploy an avalanche airbag in his backpack, which he says helped keep him from going under, all the while cascading roughly 1,000 vertical feet to the valley below.
I'm fine, I'm not hurt at all, I'm good.
Amazingly, Curvin managed to escape the incident unharmed. He says it wasn't just the airbag equipment, but also avalanche safety training courses he's taken that likely saved his life. That's a specimen ball, is how officials are describing this surreal dome fountain of lava on social media. No, really, that's what they said. The fomenting fountain was caught on camera at the Halemaumau crater of Hawaii's Kilauea volcano. The volcano has been showing activity since late 2020 and has formed a crater lake. Lava is entering the lake through a submerged channel, creating a trippy bubbling effect. The size of the fountain is estimated at about 16 feet high and 33 feet across. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight. President-elect Biden will not be the only one getting some fanfare when he enters the White House this month. His rescue dog, Major, is being honored with his own Inauguration. The Delaware Humane Association and Pumpkin Pet Insurance are teaming up to host a virtual ceremony celebrating the nation's first shelter dog to step into the role. The inauguration is scheduled for January 17th, 3 days before Biden's own inauguration. A $10 minimum donation is required for those who want to join the Zoom event.